We'll give you 2 minutes.
Welcome to your X Generation Fishing Report. This is your inshore report of the week. Today I'm joined by Captain Danny again.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother.
Feeling good to be seen.
So, I heard from a little bird that Juneau Beach is the place to be. Place to be. You want to catch some silver kings? You want to get on those trophy snook? That is the place to be right now. But when? When is the question?
Well, you know, a lot of guys, they do this, you know, first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. And believe it or not, when it comes to fishing beaches for snook on foot and out of my boat, I want that sun dead overhead and I want the hottest time of the day. Because throughout the years, this is just me and a couple guys that I fish with, my fishing buddies, whose names I will never mention.
Hey, Florida local right here. This is the person to listen to.
It's just... get out there if you can. Get out there. I'm dead. You guys are probably going, man, he's just packing salt. He's trying to keep them all for himself. You can't keep them all for yourself. There's too many of them out there running these beaches right now because there's so much food. But I've always been one of these hottest time of the day, sun dead overhead, and here's why. Shadows. There's no shadow leaning this way on them. No shadow leaning that way on them. Everything's dead overhead. So when you cast baits, and you're leading, like where you guys are sitting, I'm leading you because you're coming at me. You're a fish that wants to eat snook. Let it be a snook or a tarpon. I'm going to lead you some, keep it out in front of you, get it just on the other side of you, and I'm going to twitch it by you like this, in front of your face. I'm going to pop it a couple times, and then let it sink down when I know that line's out of your way. And that's when, and the jerk bait thing, I'm all about the jerk baits right now. I'm all about the jerk baits. I've been talking with some guys who've been catching snook on the beaches, Juneau, and I'm saying Juneau mainly right now in Jupiter because that area, stretch of beach, is just loaded up with these fish, and there is bait there. Down south, we do have some scattered snook, but it's nothing like going up there. I mean, even if you can get up to Hutchinson Island and Stewart right now, that water up there is so far from the St. Lucie Inlet, it's not dirty water, and those snook are just loaded on the beaches. There's tons of bait around. If you're into catching your own bait, all you need is a little 4-foot cast net. Don't bring nothing bigger. You're gonna kick yourself for bringing a bigger net. Smallest net you can get your hands on, because you only need one bait, 2 baits at a time. What do you use? 1 bait at a time.
Yeah, you need a couple dozen. That's about it.
But these fish, they're just stacked, guys. They're doing their things. They're spawning in the inlets. As soon as they spawn out, these females, they scatter right out onto the beaches. Most of them. A lot of them will sit in the inlet and stay there after they spawn. The majority of them leave the inlets, scatter out on the beaches, probably just to get a little break away from everybody, because they've been chased around for 2 or 3 days inside an inlet. Because what happens in these inlets, with these male snook go out there, look, it ain't no little spawn thing and they swim off. These male snook beat up on these females.
Oh, yeah.
If you'll catch these females on the beach, these 20-pound, 20-pound plus, 25-pound snook, you'll look at them, their tails are all nipped up and beat up, they got red marks on them and stuff. That's because those males they're rough on them, and they go in there one female. You got 50 or 100 male fish they're fighting over this fish, and everybody's just crowding up on them to do the spawn thing. Spawn gets done, they hit the beaches, catch a little. It's like going to the beach, laying out a little alone time, you know. They go do their alone time thing. They're feeding. There's many little croakers, little whiting. If you can get your hands on these little whiting like this, they'll slam those things. If I was in a boat like this weekend, I think we're going to have a little bit of wind. It's probably going to be a little chop on the beach. If you can take your boat and run up the beaches, stay 100 foot off the shoreline, start spotting snook, you can literally spin your boat around if you have power poles, power pole down to where you're not going to be taking waves over the back of your boat, or drop your trolling motor down, set it on spot lock. That's what I do with my Minn Kota.
There you go.
Set it on spot lock and take these baits and just throw them up near the beach, 10 foot from the shoreline. 5-10 foot off that shoreline. You can use a little 1/2 ounce lead. Keep that bait down on the bottom. You don't need big baits.
No.
These monster fish, you got it right on the money. These monster fish will eat baits like this all day long, and I don't know what it is, and I've never been able to figure it out in my little world, which is what's left of it up here, is how these fish will go after that fish that's got the hook in it. They'll go after that bait that's got a hook in it.
You know what it is, Danny? I think it's because they're giving off those vibrations that they're injured. Because that hook, of course...
Well, they're distressed. They're sending out distress.
Yeah. But for people like you and me that we like to throw artificials, let's talk, give them tips and tricks on colors with that. I personally, at this time of the year, I like the olive. The olive is
You
one
want
of
to
my
match the hatch.
I like the olive. I'll throw the, if the water's dirty, it's a different. I like to fish the incoming tide when that water clears up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also fish the silver, the clear with the silver flake in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also fish the pearl. Those are my 3 go-to colors this time of year.
And those are killer colors to use. I mean, it's different companies use different names for colors that almost look identical. Like Zoom makes a soft plastic jerk bait called it's a super salty fluke. It's called, and I think it's called it's an olive back. I think they call it.
The olive back is
it's called olive back. Now DOA makes their colors called stark naked. Stark naked's gonna in DOA lures. That's gonna be the closest to match that color with the Zoom. So but look, it's the light green, the olive colored backs. Because you take them baits and you look at the bait, and you look at a little pilchard, you net it on the beach, and the colors are almost identical.
Oh, yeah.
So he's matching the hatch. Dirty water, I fish all DOA. So dirty water, I'm going to go over to what's called a Bayou Tiger is the color. And the Bayou Tiger, I think, if I'm right, Mark Nichols just came out with another color that's similar, but it's got some another type of flake or a little more color of some type. That Bayou Tiger in the dirty water, it just rules. We love to use it in the inlets.
Dirty water, I like myself. It's DOA makes it also. It's the root beer color with the gold flake and the chartreuse tail.
And you're talking a jerk bait or the terrorize?
The jerk bait.
And that's another bait that you don't hear me mention often. That little terrorize.
I love that terrorize.
That little cookie cutter looking. And the first time I saw it, I just looked and went, what is it? You know, you look at it and go, that thing rocks, because it looks like a little pilchard, and it's got that heavy lead in the eyes to where it gets down on the bottom. You can just barely bounce it. Just do little shakes. I like to shake a little when I bounce it to try and get the tail to flip, to throw them little puffs of sand.
Yep.
And they see those things.
Suck it in.
The main thing is, don't get that line in front of them. As soon as they see that line in front of them, they're going to stop and go, nope, I ain't going nowhere near it. But when you lead that fish and then get that lure to the other side of them, where there's no line blocking where they're heading, they will tend to peel right off and come after them baits.
All right, so last but not least, last thing, if you are fishing those beaches, scale down your tackle, fish your lighter hooks, and go ahead and loosen up those drags. Those fish ain't got nowhere to go. They're not going to wrap you up around a pylon.
That's correct.
The most you're going to get caught up is on a rock, and you can never avoid that.
But it hardly ever happens.
Hardly ever happens. Fish that light drag so you're not going to straighten your hooks, because everybody's going to be like, oh, you know, these hooks are straight and easy. Lighten up that drag. You need maybe about 3 pounds of drag at the most. And
it's funny that you brought this up, because through the years, I've had some videos out there, probably YouTube, Facebook stuff years ago, and people go, man, why don't you tighten up your drag? You sure are spending a lot of time fighting that fish. You're going to kill that fish. Get in the water with the fish. I can afford to loosen up my drag and take my time fighting this fish versus trying to lock down on it and get it to the beach before it breaks me off. When I get that fish up to the sand, I'm going right in the water with it anyway. I'm going to grab it by its bottom jaw, pull that jig out of it, throw the jig out of the way. I'm going to cradle that fish and sit there with her until I know she's going to swim off good, she's going to swim off healthy.
And here's a nice thing, even fishing the flats, because you can get in the water in those flats. They're less than waist deep, and you can work that fish, and it gives you such a great picture too when you're in the water with that fish.
That's the cool thing about it too, because you're going to go, bro, I got to get a picture of this fish. The best way to get your pictures is when you're in the water with that fish. And there's nothing like being, you know, knee-deep, waist-deep water with this beautiful fish like this, smiling at the camera so that you can show it off to all your buddies.
That, and it keeps the fish healthy. You get great pictures. Yep. And like I said, lighten up those drags and scale down those tackle. Right now, it's the time of year you can do those things in the spots that you fish. You're not fishing around docks or anything like that. There are pylons that'll get you wrapped up. And those are your tips and tricks and what's happening on the Inshore Report. We'll see you next week.
Weather and predictions for this week. The weather is unbelievable. It's going to be south winds, 1 foot this weekend they're calling for. Watch out for the thunderstorms, of course, but and watch out for the heat. Keep cool, keep some water on the boat, get some fresh water, hose yourself off if you need to keep cool.
Pedialyte.
Or go night fishing. Or go night fishing.
Hello.
But what are your predictions?
Predictions is what more can you ask for a weather like this? You know, you've got everything in line for you. If it's taking the wife and the kid out fishing, you know, and you know the kid's going to get heat stroke and get sick and all that, the seas are going to be flat.
Yeah.
Go out there and do a little night fishing. Get out on that 80-foot reef, or you know, in that zone, the 80 to 130 foot of water.
Yeah.
And get on these kingfish and all these tuna that are moving in the evening times.
Yep.
There's just tons of blackfin tuna out here. I can't believe they're still here like this.
Even off Juneau.
It's blowing, and that's, I've been talking to the guys off Juneau. They're like, dude, we're in the blackfins up here. It's into July almost.
Yep.
And it's like, and you're probably the same as me. Is going, why are they hanging out so long? I don't care why they're not. Why they're here, I don't care. That nighttime fishing for them blackfin, it's a ball. You're not going to get wore out. You're going to be comfortable. Guaranteed you're going to have to sleep in the next day, but
yep.
It's going to be worth it.
And if you go out really early. Go out before the sun comes up. You know, but go out of an inlet that you know how to navigate and all that. And you know, stay out until 10 a.m., 11 a.m. and go home. It'll get hot by then, and just go home. But right now, this weekend, there is going to be a good bite before lunchtime. So between when the sun comes up until lunchtime. If you don't get anything until then, it's going to be slow fishing after that.
That's when to go home and get in the pool anyway, right?
Kingfish are going to be biting. There was a really good sailfish bite up north in North Palm Beach. There was a really good blackfin bite off of Jupiter. The bottom fishing's been good. The dolphin fishing has been good. You can almost go do anything you want to do this weekend. Just pick a plan and stick to it. Don't get out there and switch up everything and start trying to fish for other fish. Pick a plan and fish for it. There's going to be plenty of dolphin. If you live bait the reef, there's going to be plenty of kingfish, you know, sailfish, stuff like that.
Tons of live bait around. I mean, if you go out to the Palm Beach Inlet, Peanut Island area, there's tons of bait. Go out to the buoys and start with the sabikis. I don't think there's many big sardines around, but there's tons of smaller baits around. Your pilchards and just all kinds of little stuff that work perfect for fishing for kingfish, wahoo. Like they'll eat a little bait. They don't have to have a bait this big. Yeah. They will eat a bait that big if that's what's on the menu.
There's a lot of live ballyhoo around too, and I love using live ballyhoo for bottom fishing or bump trolling. Live ballyhoo bump trolling, I've got my biggest dolphin I've ever caught on a live ballyhoo bump trolling. They're good baits, and you know, and when they die, use them for bottom fishing.
Now, real quick to get if you get around the ballyhoo, what's the trick?
So two things. You got to chum. All right, and they'll just come up to your chum.
Oatmeal or just regular chum?
I just do regular chum, double ground chum in a chum bag, and I chum. And you'll start seeing the ballyhoo come right up. Any reef around, they'll come up. And when they come up, what I use is either throw a net on them or a little gold hook with a little piece of bait and float it back.
Single hooking?
Yeah, one at a time. And
well, could you? I'm picturing a bait well full of live ballyhoo, and I'm going, man, that's just too good to be true.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Beautiful silver baits. They're little orange on the tail, little orange on the beak. Beautiful looking baits, and they love. Now, you can't drift them really unless you're going to use them for bottom fishing. You put them on the bottom, but they do not drift well. You have to bump
troll them. They work perfect.
Yeah.
Now on your beaches, look, early morning. Dev and I were talking earlier about the inshore stuff. Early morning, if you want to beat the heat, get down there with a small topwater lure, a little Super Spook Junior or a Skitterwalk, something like that, in a mullet color or something black and silver, green and silver, or old school red and white for your snook on the beaches in the morning. But if you're going to be throwing those top waters, don't go any less than a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. I'm telling you now, you're going to lose a lure, and you're going to be upset with yourself. You left the lure in that fish's mouth as she swam off. But that early morning topwater bite is going to be golden, just like that midday bite this weekend. These beaches, just because some people are laying out, there's people swimming around, I've caught more snook swimming around people on the beaches. Granted, you got to get away from the lifeguarded areas, but you'll see those snook, they'll mix right in with them people swimming. Get away from their lifeguard areas, one side or the other, and just go sight casting, throwing jerk baits and stuff like that. You can't go wrong, guys. It's going to be a good weekend for fishing right here.
Yeah, well, that's your report and weather and predictions. And if you catch anything, or if you have any of your own predictions that you want us to know about, email us at xgenfishing@gmail.com.